Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and I'm the founder of Fitness Uncharted, which is a women's health and fitness coaching company. And today I am joined by Keslie Baker. And Keslie is a fitness and nutrition coach and a posing coach, and also a new fit practitioner. And today she's joining us to share her own personal experience and chat with us about pregnancy and postpartum fitness. So, Keslie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Keslie, can you hear my puppy barking in the background? Is it super annoying?
I
Okay,
can.
great. Okay, I was like, we're literally just gonna have to like start this thing over if we can, but we're gonna keep going, guys. So if you haven't seen from social, I have a new puppy. So if you hear him in the background, it is what it is, you know. But
Same. You might hear a baby. So,
there you go. Well, yeah, and Keslie has a brand new baby. You said 11 weeks, right?
yes, yes, 11 weeks.
11 weeks. 11 weeks. I think that's about how old my puppy is. But Keslie, if you would just share with us a little bit, like how you got into the coaching space, like even just your story with your pregnancy, and just tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So, um, my first passion was going to, I wanted to be a coach and teacher. And then I kind of changed my course of study over to personal training, group fitness. And in that transition, I decided to become a nurse. So I kind of have this multifaceted, training and knowledge. And I did personal training through nursing school. I trained some friends, and I focused more on nursing though for quite a while. I thought I was gonna push through nursing for a really long time. I had goals and aspirations to be in hospital leadership, which were not there, and that's perfectly fine. I'm supposed to be where I'm supposed to be. Um, but something I kept seeing when I was working in healthcare was just the lack of knowledge and education on actually taking care of yourself before you had to come to the hospital. And I kept seeing it over and over again. And population health was really interesting to me for a while. Never quite dove into that, but um, I also had a lot of my own experiences of getting sick when I was probably 26 or so. And no one could ever really tell me what was wrong. So I finally just said, I think I know what I'm doing as a trainer, but like I need some help too. So I was like, I need someone to help me to eat better, take care of my body, program my exercises. I really need to dive back into that side of things if I really want to figure out what's going on for myself. And so that's when I kind of restarted my fitness journey, and I decided to ramp up my own business kind of more on the side for a while, and then went full time with everything 2 years ago. So a
Nice.
lot of different experiences led me here.
Nice. So that's awesome. And then when you said, was it when you were 26, were you working with a coach yourself or just doing it yourself, working on
I
your?
was just I was just doing it myself. I was, going to the gym, trying to eat better. I worked night shift at the time too, so sleep habits and I was eating terrible for a while. And I was like, okay, I've got to clean this up. Like I know better than to do these things. So it was not till I was 28 that I actually like started working with a coach.
Okay, nice, nice. No, we actually have a lot of nurses as clients as well, and it's so funny because like every single one of them, like you would think we eat better than we do, but we don't.
Nurses are notorious for being bad examples of of health.
Yeah. Well, if you would, like, let's jump into some of our, like, I have a bunch of questions for you, like, just as far as kind of like making this an overall pregnancy and postpartum conversation. But could you share a little bit about like your fitness journey during pregnancy and then also how you adapted your workouts for each trimester?
Sure. So the one thing I knew is that I wanted to stay active. There's so many health benefits. I was already training before, so I had no concerns going into pregnancy, continuing to train. However, as you grow and your body's changing, your hips are widening, your center of gravity is off, you have to adjust your workouts to, make sure that you're not going to cause yourself harm while you're trying to do good for yourself and for the baby. And for me specifically, it really taught me to not only learn to make adjustments and do it because I'm a little stubborn and hard headed for my own self, but it made me listen to my body. So you really have to be even more in tune with your body. So like if you're tired, you're tired. And I would find myself, I was still working out about 3, 4 times a week, and I was working with the coach too, and we stayed in a lot of communication at the time. And then I eventually, second trimester, switched to working with someone who is like a maternal health coach. So she's certified in prenatal, postnatal exercise, and that's been phenomenal. So I just
Awesome.
I had to make those adjustments. I had to communicate with my coach, and I was really bad though for a while of go, go, go. And then I was like, I hit a brick wall and like I couldn't even like hardly crawl out of bed for a day or two because my body's like, hey, you're building a human. You need to slow down a little bit.
You need to chill a
Um,
little bit.
yes.
Did you find
My
that that
husband,
was hard for you, especially coming from like the fitness space and like the bodybuilding space and stuff like that? Like, did you find it was hard for you to back off? Was that
yes,
okay?
very much so. Like I'm a go, go, go all the time. And it's funny because I'll tell my clients, like, hey, like you need to back things off. But like for myself, I'm like 100% all the time. And my body said, no, no, ma'am.
Did you find what trimester did you find? Was that harder in your first trimester or third trimester? Like just the energy slump?
It was really like end of first through most of second trimester, I would say. That's where things, really changed a lot physically. Third trimester, I kind of felt like things were, I don't say set because you're obviously like one day you're like, I'm pregnant, and then you're like, whoa, I'm pregnant. Like you're like just everything so bigger. But I was already used to like my hips widening out and like my joints feeling looser. So I would say the fatigue and really like the pushing it and like my body really responding was kind of end of first through the second trimester.
Okay. Okay. And that's what I wanted to ask you too. Like, obviously, the benefits, if you could speak to even the benefits of strength training and cardio, both or individually for pregnant women and keeping that up, but also listening to your body. And then also, if there are any just like myths that you would want to debunk around, exercise for pregnant women.
Okay, sure. So let's start with myths just because that's what like caught my mind first. I had so many people say you shouldn't be working out while you're pregnant. And that's a myth. I had already been very active beforehand. Now, if someone wasn't active and wasn't, exercising before they got pregnant, I would take a different approach, personally for myself and, recommend like talking with your doctor and again, working with someone that, does this for a living specifically for, pregnant women. Um, so I would say that not working out is a myth, but again, there are situations too. Like you have to look at the big picture. Are you healthy enough to do it, and do you know how to adjust as you continue on through your pregnancy? So for safety's sake, can you remind me of the first part of
Absolutely.
that
Well,
too?
also, I kind of had a follow-up question too. Like, even what are your thoughts around lifting quote unquote heavy during pregnancy? Like, what's kind of your take on that too? 'Cause I know that's a big hot topic.
It's very individualized.
Yeah.
There's women who can continue lifting super, super heavy and they do it through all their pregnancies. I've seen it over and over again. For me, I felt my strength really kind of peak in my second trimester, but then as I continued on, I felt a little bit weaker. So I took things more of like a what I would call a maintenance approach to training versus going super heavy. Plus, my hips started hurting a lot. So going heavy with deadlifts and stuff like that was not something I felt comfortable doing in my third trimester.
Yeah, I totally feel that. And I think like the individualized approach, like that's how you have to take fitness in general, but then especially with pregnancy and postpartum, like and even like that's where I've as you probably know, like I had a miscarriage at 12 weeks. And like for me leading up to that, I was not able to lift as heavy. Like I wanted to be the badass like pregnant woman lifting just as much as I did before because I've seen plenty of women do it. I know you can. There's no correlations or studies showing lifting heavy like if you've come from that, right,
Right.
like correlates to negative outcomes. But for me, I had like a lot of bleeding throughout my pregnancy and stuff like that, so it's just like why worry more about like pushing too hard or whatever. So I definitely had to scale it back more than I would have liked. Because I was like, I'd just rather be safe than sorry, even though I know logically I'm like, I'm in a very good shape to where I shouldn't have to worry about the weight that I'm lifting. I can just scale a little bit back. I had to scale way more back than I wanted to. But I think it's just so individualized for the person, for the
Yes,
woman.
definitely.
For
Definitely.
sure. Well, even like just the benefits too. Like, what would you like as far as strength training and cardio? Like, what would you just share as far as like what would maybe be some tips as far as keeping up with both your strength and cardio, or for someone who maybe is like not working out? Like, what would just be some kind of general tips you would give?
So for someone that's been working out, again, listen to your body, number one, always number one. Um, and adjusting your weights on based on how you feel that day. There's going to be days where you're super energized. There's going to be days where you have no energy, and that maybe be a day that you rest. But I think maintaining the muscle and keeping the movement patterns going, like you have to think of like use it or lose it. I mean, that's applicable to a lot of different things. But even while you're pregnant, your body's reshaping itself, but you also don't want to lose what you had already put forth effort towards. And for me, I felt like it helped me in labor. So there's a lot of benefit of being not only muscular, what's the right word I'm looking for here? Having the muscle ability, like to one, everything to come back together after you have the baby. But I felt like I had the muscles and the strength to go into labor. Like I had the muscle and the endurance. And the same thing with like the cardio side of things. Um, I I went to walking. Like I started walking. Incline walking got really, really hard. I was like, oh, this is so difficult. It's like an incline of two, and I think I'm gonna fall off this treadmill. There was something about incline walking that was super hard. But I mean, that's something that everyone can do, whether they're,
Yeah.
into weight training or cardio or whatever, just getting out and walking and moving gets the blood flow going, get your heart rate up a little bit. So it gives you that endurance. Like I said, it prepares you for labor. And I think that that was super important and something that I was really proud of for maintaining um, throughout pregnancy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And like it just really does prepare you for like actual labor and delivery. Like
Hmm.
what do some people say? It's like you're training for like the ultimate marathon, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
And did you have a natural delivery? Did you have a C-section? What did you
I had a
do?
natural delivery.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it a smooth experience for you? How was it?
Um, honestly, the labor itself was okay. I mean, obviously get very uncomfortable. It was a long time. It was the first baby for me. Again, everyone's different. I was in labor for probably like 25-ish hours, and then the last two of that was pushing. So, um, it was laborious, but we made it and things went really well. We're very blessed. So,
Oh, good, good. Well, like exactly the reason why you need to have that stamina, be training for,
yes,
be-
absolutely.
yeah. And then just like, I mean, the gestational diabetes and stuff like that, that so many women, deal with. To like just having some kind of exercise regimen, even if it is really low key,
Right.
walking, incline walking, like those are all great things. Is there anything else you would add on the strength or exercise side of things? I kind of want to switch gears to a couple nutrition topics too. Anything else?
We can switch
Would
over.
that switch over?
Yeah.
Well, what about the whole, what's your take on like the whole quote unquote eating for two concept? And how would you like help women navigate that idea of the eating for two?
I personally don't like the phrase or the thought of eating for two, because I've been lucky to work with women who do get pregnant while we're working together, and they let me coach them. But you're eating to nourish your body to nourish the growing fetus. It doesn't mean you need double of your meals. It doesn't mean that you need to have a bunch of extra junk food or whatever because your baby's going to use it. Like the baby's still growing and maturing, and like you want to nourish it in the right way so they're getting what they actually need. So the eating for two is and it's funny because a lot of the first trimester and even second for some people is they can barely eat at all because they're nauseated. So your body is amazing that it can handle itself when you're barely getting to eat, even if you are pregnant, but it also doesn't need all the extra stuff in the first part of the first trimester. Usually, calorically, I don't change anybody if they are pregnant, which I didn't for myself either. I didn't change my intake for the first trimester because I got pregnant that way. I stayed that way, and then once I advanced through the trimesters, that's when my coach and I changed my intake. So, um,
Nice.
yeah, I'm not a
Did you?
huge fan of the 80 for
Yeah.
2.
I thought you might say that, but thought I'd ask. Oh, did you have any food aversions or anything like first trimester, or like were you fine? What was that like for you?
So being pregnant broke my I had a caffeine addiction. I'm not even gonna lie about it. Like I was working a lot. I was drinking a lot of caffeine. I actually, the day I found out I was pregnant, I had like a half a caffeine energy drink, and I was up all night. Like this isn't real. Like maybe I'm tripping off the caffeine. I don't know. Um, but that coffee was always something I drank in the morning, and the smell of coffee started to really gross me out. So my husband would make a cup of coffee, and I'm like, "Can you like go sit over there, or like wait till I like leave the house, something?" And he was like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes, it smells terrible. Like it's really grossing me out." And then at different times, different proteins would bother me, like meat protein specifically. So, like, I was really good at eating ground beef, and then I could stand the smell of turkey, or I'd go to eat a meal that I had meal prepped, and I would like start to eat it, and I was like, I can't, I cannot put this down today. Like, I hate to say the word can't. My body was like, you're not eating that today. So, and it even took until probably about a month or so ago where there were sometimes just the different smell of meats and the texture kind of grossed me out. And that's where I get my protein is usually from a meat source. So it was interesting to navigate that. And I, had to use some shakes when I needed to use shakes. And it's, it's a whole different ball game when your body like rejects something that you're so used to taking in. So you have to learn what you can take in that's gonna replace that and still give you the right nutrients.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I had the same aversions to meat and protein in that like first trimester. I couldn't do it. And I wanted all the carbs, no protein. Like, and that's
Same.
coming from someone who normally eats like 200 grams of protein. I was like, oh my gosh, like what?
Yes.
It's like, but that's like what my body wanted. And then the protein was just disgusting. I was smothering it in cheese or anything I could to just like make it edible. Like, oh, and eggs. How are you with eggs? Eggs were the
So
worst for me.
I hadn't eaten chicken or eggs for a while just from some food allergy type things, but I
Ah,
really wanted
okay.
to introduce them back in when I was pregnant to see if I could. Eggs were fine. The chicken itself, honestly, I didn't even get down until my third trimester. So I was like, I just need to expose this baby to this food.
To
Even if my body doesn't love it, like I need them to like be exposed to it. So yeah,
be exposed to it. I know that's where like, I know I'm sure you take the same approach of trying to like minimize the supplements or the, shakes and bars and stuff, like mostly getting whole foods, but I was having to rely way more on protein powder than I normally do for protein because I was like, I just can't do
same.
yeah, other sources. Were there any other like nutrition approaches or like guidelines that you followed in particular?
Mainly just doing the increase in caloric intake with my coach. Greens, like green veggies really grossed me out, which was super weird.
Mm.
Because I normally eat greens in at least two of my meals a day. So like canned green beans were the only way I got green things in for a little while. Like you have to get creative. Um, but no, nothing I can think of that was really different from what we've already talked about. It was just, I mean, I wanted carbs. I definitely wanted carbs. I would wake up in the middle of the night wanting carbs. So
Yeah.
that was a new experience.
And like no carbs off limits. Like even there's fruits too. Like it was like simple or complex carbs. It doesn't matter. Just carbs.
Yes, yes. Lots of fruit, lots of
Yeah.
bananas. That seemed to like kind of hold me over.
Yes. Oh, so good. Awesome. Well, that's on the nutrition side of things. I'm trying to think if I have any other nutrition wise, actually a couple like hot topic things too of like and of course this is, dependent on the person and but there's so many people out there with different takes on like you know, raw fish or like raw seafood, deli meat, if you're doing raw milk or anything like that. Did you really stay within those like guidelines of like pasteurized, not doing, as much fish, stuff like that? Like, how strict were you with those kind of guidelines too, personally?
So I don't eat any seafood, so I didn't have to
Okay.
worry about
That's
that. Like,
good.
no, I'm not a seafood person, never have been. And the smell of it was extra gross while I was pregnant. Now deli meat. So that was one of the first indicators I was pregnant because I would get go to the deli and get sliced like boar's head. That's kind of what we would always get. And the first time I like had this weird aversion to smelling turkey, I was like, okay, no. But I actually ate a lot of deli meat. I ended up just sticking it in the microwave and scorching it. And that was one way I got protein into because I couldn't eat like ground turkey. So I had deli turkey and I just would stick it in the microwave and then put sriracha and mustard on it was a thing. So that's what I did.
Sriracha and mustard. That sounds pretty good.
That's good.
It's pretty good. No, I actually because we do raw milk normally, like from a local farm. And I was making Ninja Creamy ice cream with it. So just the raw milk and then like a scoop of protein powder, a tablespoon of pudding mix, and like vanilla extract, and literally would blend
Yes.
that up, put it in the freezer, and then make the ice cream with it, and loved it. We were doing that every night basically before I got pregnant. And then whatever it was about that was like, that's how I
Oh
knew.
no.
I was like, that is the thought of it was disgusting to me. I could do other kind of ice creams fine, but I was like, oh, I cannot with that. I was like, maybe it was my body just telling me like, don't do that right now.
The Ninja Creamy is the greatest gift to food
Man.
hacks ever. Yes, because I was eating a ton of I had ice cream every single night, and that was before I got pregnant too. And I actually converted Ninja Creamy ice cream over to freezing pickle juice because I had a salt craving. So
Oh,
I would use pickle juice and make like a smoothie, or I call it a pickle snow cone, and it just hit the spot every night. So that's what I did. Yeah.
what was it? Just pickle juice? Did you add anything?
A little water because it gets really salty when it freezes. So just a little water, mostly pickle juice. Sometimes I would freeze pickle chunks in there, and then I used the smoothie setting on the Ninja Creamy. Yep,
Oh my gosh, I feel like you probably just changed some people's lives. I'm not a
it's
huge
a game
pickle
changer.
person, but that is amazing. I would have never thought to do that. Oh my
It's
gosh.
great.
Yeah, it's so great. No, the Ninja Creamy is like, yeah, life changing in a lot of ways, especially for sweet tooth people like
Yes.
myself. Have you seen like you can even just like get the like chocolate Fairlife milk and pour that into it and freeze it and then just use that. So you're literally not mixing anything. I was like, that's just so easy. It's just
Yep.
like
I used the
easy.
chocolate Fairlife and then my protein powder that I liked, and it made like this perfect chocolate ice cream every night. So good. Mm,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
yeah.
get back into that now.
You
uh,
should.
yeah. So awesome. Well, let's transition a little bit to postpartum because that's where you're at
Okay.
now.
Yes.
11 weeks. And for you, like how did your body feel postpartum? How does it feel postpartum? And like how did you approach getting back into fitness after giving birth?
So first, I no one talks about like immediately postpartum or even the first few months postpartum. Like it's just not talked about. And
Talk.
I have two friends that have babies like right around the same time that I did. So it's been great to like have that community and talk to them. I actually just had lunch with one today. But like I did not know the type of achiness and discomfort that you can feel having a baby. I was like, no one told
Mm,
me that. Like I knew it would be uncomfortable, obviously, especially if I delivered naturally, but no one tells you that it feels like you've been kicked by a horse, you know? So
yeah.
the discomfort is very real. It's very prevalent if you tear versus if you don't. Like you have to address that. And um yeah, you have to take it slow. You have to take it very slow. And I honestly, it took me probably the first 4 weeks to actually feel somewhat normal again, like postpartum, just any overall in general, but especially healing wise.
I was like, talk about it because I don't think it does get talked about enough. It's just like everyone suffers in silence, and you're like,
And
wait,
you shouldn't.
yeah.
You
Well, and
shouldn't.
for you, was that even like for instance, in those 4 weeks, like what did that look like for you? I know some people, what is it like the 3-3-3 or 5-5-5, where it's like, the first 3 days you spend in bed, the next three, what is it, four?
So I actually had worked with a pelvic floor therapist, and she had recommended the 5-5-5. And so that's what I really, it's against like my being to like want to be like that. But it was 5 days like in bed, like really not doing much, and then 5 days of like moving around like in your room or space or wherever you are with your baby, and then five of like starting to move throughout your house, and then kind of just going from there. For me it was walking down to the cul-de-sac and back, and then like walking a little more around the cul-de-sac and back, or all the way around the cul-de-sac and back. But that wasn't even until week 3 that I was even like getting that far out of the door, out of the house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know for me would be the hardest part for sure because it's just like I just itching to go. But you're just gonna slow
definitely.
down your recovery if you push it too hard
Yes,
too
yeah.
soon. Yeah.
Your
Uh
body tells you like, hey, I need you to like sit down or lay down because this is very uncomfortable. At least that's how my experience was. And we did pictures with him. I guess it was like 9 days after he was born, and just taking pictures and like kind of moving through a house where we were. I was exhausted for 2 days after that. So it
oh.
was just like it just your body tells you like, hey, you need to slow down, even if you take pictures. So
Yeah.
you gotta
Even just
listen.
taking pictures. Ugh, yes. Well, and I know you shared before we started recording, that it's been a like slower progress than what you anticipated going into it. And I think also probably part of that built up because you're like, I was doing everything I could to stay active all the way through my pregnancy and, doing all the right things and whatever. So like I imagine naturally, mentally, you're like, okay, we'll be able to get right back to it. It'll be. What were some of like the biggest challenges that you've faced in just rebuilding strength and your endurance like post baby? I know we're only 11 weeks out from your delivery.
Sure. So again, I think it was things were different. My hips are wider. I was having a lot of hip pain towards the end, just as baby's, making his way into position. But um, after having like up until I had him, I worked out the day I went into labor, so I was pushing myself to be active. And when I was like, get out of here. But um, the strength aspect of it, I would say right now I'm maybe 50% of my strength. I didn't want to recruit like improper, patterns of movement if I didn't have the right stability and strength in the joints and stuff like that. So um, it, I truly thought because I was so active before pregnancy and during pregnancy that I would just really, it would kick back in, but it really hasn't yet. I had unrealistic expectations of myself, probably more than I would ever have any expectations of working with someone. It was just like I'm a very driven person, so I wanted to see the results. And in my mailing list, I kind of have been sharing my journey of like leading up to baby and postpartum, and like the good and the bad and the ugly. And I just had sent one out, and it was like, I was doing so well and I was trying so hard to get things back together. And I had this goal by my birthday, which I would be like, what, 9, 10 weeks out, and I didn't hit that goal. Like, I didn't reach it. And um I'm even more aware of, like, I'm feeding my child and taking care of a whole other being besides myself. And so the nutrients that I take in goes to him too. So it's going to not just me, but to him. So everything's going to take longer because of what your goal and your mission is, which is to
Mm.
sustain life and produce food for this child, because that's the choice, I've chosen to breastfeed. So um yeah, we were talking about, like, the bounce back, like, it's going to take a while, and I have to remind
Yeah.
myself of that daily.
Well, would you speak to that too? Like any advice for moms who feel like just frustrated or, with how, you've kind of experienced some of that yourself, but like just the pressure to bounce back after birth, quote unquote, bounce back.
Right,
Any
right.
advice you would give them?
I think a lot of the pressure is what we put on ourselves.
Mm,
For me being a coach, I want to be an example and, do as I say, and also, like, look the part. That's why a lot of people end up coming to us. It's not necessarily an internal goal as it is, like, I want to look different, but really
yeah.
everything starts from the inside out. Like, it has to start from the inside out in order to see progress long term. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, it's
so good.
the bounce back is, you have to your what you do is different from your friend that had a baby and your other friend that had a baby. And what that looks like is, what's your schedule with your child? Like, you can only control what you can control. And if that's your nutrients and your intake, then let that be the first thing. If it's a walk each day, then it's a walk each day. If it's 5 minutes of getting to work out, if you like to work out, then that's what it is. And you just have to be adaptable to the situation, because it can go from the baby sleeping really well to the baby's not sleeping very well. And you thought you were going to get your morning workout, but you didn't get a workout at all that day. You were doing squats holding your child. Like, that's, um, it takes time. We live in a world where everything is right now. I want it, I can get it. And I know in my head and in my heart, like, delayed gratification is going to be a great thing when we get
Mm.
to that point, and whatever that looks like. But right now is just taking it day by day, and that's all you can do.
Yes. Oh my gosh. What a beautiful answer. Gosh. Because and I think the comparison trap, like you touched on that, like, comparing like, oh, I think that a part of bounce back culture is because you do see a mom here or there, whatever, who bounces, quote unquote, bounces back so quick. But it's like comparing like anyone on their fitness journey. It's like you don't know what their dieting history was like, whatever. As for a mom, you don't know what their delivery was like. You don't know what the baby, like how the baby is sleeping or not, like how mom's energy levels, like you don't know what her breastfeeding journey has been like just so many variables. So it's like, how could we expect everyone to recover as quickly? It's like, because you do see those women who do. I was actually working with a client who came to us because she did quote unquote bounce back so quickly after she started out very lean and small, and actually had to gain weight to get pregnant. And then she got pregnant, had her son, and then lost that weight super quickly and got even smaller after her pregnancy or her delivery. And then she wants more children. And so but she didn't want to put on weight as quickly and as much as she did the last time to get pregnant. So she was like wanting to work with us to help get her period back, like get her hormones in a good place. And like that was our journey. Like, so it was like the opposite of what most people would see as the quote unquote problem. But I'm like, if someone were to just compare themselves to her, they'd be like, she bounced back, but she also lost her period. Like, we need to now get her healthy again. So it's the comparison thing of like, it's just comparing yourself up or down to someone, whether, you think you're above someone or below someone is just never a good way to go.
Absolutely. Just don't
So
do it. It will not
yes,
help your mental space at all. So don't do it.
yeah, social media makes it very challenging, very challenging.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, do you have any like go-to exercises too that would like that have helped you, like especially with the core strength, like right now you being 11 weeks out, like any exercises that helped you regaining core strength and recovering for pregnancy that you would share with anyone, like kind of some of your go-tos right now?
Yeah. Um, so I can think of probably four or five just right off the top of my head. Um, cat cow is a fantastic one because you're also stretching parts in your back and then through your shoulders and everything like that. But activating the core, engaging the core. Bird dog's another one that I do pretty much every single day, nice and slow and controlled. Pelvic tilts laying on the floor, just really trying to get all those muscles that are deep
Mm.
into the pelvic floor all the way to the pubic bone, like you're trying to engage those because the lower part is usually what ends up being spread the most. And so because that's where your uterus is and everything starts growing from down up. So really trying to activate those muscles to re-engage them, to pull what everyone likes to call the mom pooch, is to re-engage those muscles and really activate them. So pelvic tilts, and then Kegels. I know it sounds like kind of silly, but I try to do a Kegel with almost each, when I do cat cow, when I do bird dog, when I do that. And then also, um, I don't even know the official name for this one. I guess it's like a quadruped plank type thing, I guess you would
Mm.
call it, where you're on your hands and knees and then you lift your knees up, but you're really pulling the core in. And that's the one I really feel like I can connect most and like actually activate and engage. And that's one, while, my little boy's playing with on the ground, looking up at all the stuff, I can like get down there and do those types of things with him and play with him at the same time. So little multitasking going on there.
Yeah, two birds, one stone, get your core engagement, play with your baby.
That's right. That's right. We're
So
efficient.
good. Yeah, it's efficient. Learning to be even more efficient. Awesome. That's so helpful. Well, what would be, I think this is my last question for you. Maybe, maybe not. But how do you recommend for a postpartum moms, like how just to set realistic fitness and nutrition goals, like while they are adjusting to life with a newborn? Like just any advice you would give there on setting like realistic goals?
Do what you can and don't over stress about what you can't. But I do firmly believe that most of the time, that you can make the decision of what you stick in your mouth to nourish it. And I know everyone's situation's different, and groceries are expensive, and meal prepping can be hard, but there's lots of fresh frozen veggies that you can use.
Yep.
There's quick rice that you can do. There's frozen meat that you can put together easily. And I think it starts with the nutrition, because
Mm.
before even like the workouts and stuff, like your body is healing, so it's in a need for recovery. Um, and being active is great, but I think starting with like the nutrition side of things is probably the most important. It has been for me, especially as I am breastfeeding and I find myself getting hungrier and hungry, and I wake up really hungry, and it's like I can choose to eat really terrible food or I can choose to eat better food. And no one's 100%, no one's perfect. So please don't ever set that expectation for yourself, because no one's ever going to be perfect with their nutrition being pregnant. I would be shocked if there was ever anyone that could be. So
Yeah.
I would just say control what you can, and you have to make a choice to feed yourself, and then you know you can plan as much as you want. Doesn't mean the day's going to go how you plan, but
Yes.
learning to be flexible, but also a little bit structured. And I think that's where you can set yourself up for the most success to recover and heal, but also like enjoy the time with your baby and your family.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I love what you just said. Learning to be flexible, but also a little structured. Cause that's where I feel like either everyone goes like it's the all or nothing, like way too flexible or trying to be way too structured way too soon. So flexible but structured. So
Yes.
good. Yes. So good. And I love too that you pointed out like starting with nutrition because one, you're just fueling your body well. And especially if you are breastfeeding and stuff like that. But then also it's like the thing that kind of like takes the least or can take like the least time, or it's not like it doesn't have to be like additional. Like you are going to have to eat something during the day. So you can easily swap out and make, semi better food choices without having to add additional to-dos on your plate. No pun intended.
Right.
But yeah, so I love that you just would start with that too. So good. Sweet. Well, also personal question too, because I know you come from the bodybuilding space. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when was the last show that you did? How long ago was that?
December of 22.
Okay, 22.
Yeah.
Do you have plans
Hmm.
to get back into it? What are your thoughts there?
I do want to. Originally I was like, okay, I could do like a December of 25 and I think I could make myself do it. And now I'm more of like, oh, let's just, focus on getting everything back together. Like hormonally, like there's a change. My whole world is completely different now. And with, taking care of not only just like my husband and I, but a child. And I want to. I'm not going to set a date or time because I still feel like in that world, I have a lot more muscle maturity to be, a little bit more competitive. And it's really hard on the body too. So I don't want to just go from like hard on the body to like extra hard on the body again. So I feel like there's time for growth and muscle development still. And obviously, still some weight loss from having a baby that I need to address and maybe 2026. So
There you
we'll
go.
see.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, I love even that approach too, like and how we can change and our minds can change and shift, but you're being flexible but structured. You're like, okay, like let me just feel healthy, get healthy and strong, and then reset new goals
Yes,
as the time comes.
absolutely.
Yeah. So good. So good. No, that's actually something like I've considered maybe, doing a show or something, but it's kind of conflicting with, because we will want to try for kids again. But like very conflicting goals in a way, of like working towards that low percent of body fat, versus working towards prepping your body for a baby or kind of conflicting goals.
Very
So
much so.
So yeah, it's definitely you kind of got to choose one or the other if what you're
That's
going
how
for.
I came up to you. I don't know if you remember. That's how like I was like, "Did
Yeah.
you compete at this show?" And you were like, "No." And I was like, "I
No.
swear you look like a girl that I saw." And that's how we started conversation. That's how
Yes,
we met.
Keslie and I met at a business coaching event, and yeah, that's I remember that how you came up, and I was like, no, I guess I just have a familiar face or familiar body or something. I don't know.
I was like, if I look like her, I would never compete because she's got good muscle.
Oh man,
But
but it
yeah,
is. It's such a hard thing to be like, okay, which goal do I want to go for right now? Like I
yes,
feel like we're very like-minded in our ambitions.
I think
With
so.
it. Yeah. Sweet. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much just for your time and knowledge and experience and sharing your personal story with
Thank
everyone.
you.
Is there anywhere that or where can people find you? What's the best way to reach
So
you?
I have my website. It's KeslieBFitness.com. Um, and then I'm on Instagram at KeslieBFit_RN. So those are my two places that you can find me. And if you have questions, message me.
Perfect. And I'll put it in the show notes too. Well, thank you,
Okay.
Keslie. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.